Welcome to the Bookish Hour with your hosts, Sarah E. Burr and J.C. Kenney. And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bookish Hour. I'm Sarah Burr.
And I am J.C. Kenney. Happy Baby Friday, folks. Happy Leap Day, folks. According to Leap Day, I'm 14 years old, so I will act my age like I tend to always. But enough about me. Sarah, I am so excited. We have a wonderful guest tonight with a super fabulous giveaway. I think it's time to get bookish.
I couldn't agree more. Our special bonus day, I think what better way than to be bookish with you all this evening. And we are joined by the wonderful Paula Charles, who is here to celebrate the release of her debut cozy mystery.
Yes.
Paula, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we absolutely, number one, we love talking with cozy mystery authors. Number two, we love talking with debut authors because like your first book, wow, what an achievement. And so the fact that you are the best of all worlds, like what a treat for us this evening. We're delighted to have you here.
I am delighted to be here. It took a bit, but here we are.
We are
rescheduling.
And so, you know what, Paula, let's just kind of dive right in. Like Sarah said, you know, this is Hammers and Homicide is your debut novel, or your debut cozy mystery, I should say. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Gosh, that's the hardest question of all, isn't it? Always.
Okay.
So I should have a tagline for this. It's very short. Like you said, Hammers and Homicide is my debut novel, cozy, yes, but my debut anything. I was 51, I believe, before I thought, you know what, maybe I do have enough words in my head to be able to write a book, and sat down and gave it a shot. And it now, 5 years later, here we are with this debut novel. I live in Southwestern Washington state, just across the Columbia River from Portland, Oregon, on a 1-acre farm with my patient, very, very patient husband and a gaggle of furry and feathered creatures. We have, between the two of us, we have 6 kids. We played the Brady Bunch theme at our wedding. They're all grown and we have grandkids now. And that's about it.
I love that. And to hear your story, Paula, in reading Hammers and Homicide, because you were generous enough to provide us with an art copy of it. We meet Donna Carpenter, and she is at a real, almost like a very sad place in her life because she's lost her beloved husband, which for the opening pages of a cozy mystery, it was just like gut punch, gut punch, gut punch, but in such a beautiful and hopeful way. And I'll leave you to explain that a little more once we start talking
Sure.
about the book itself. But what I wanted to get from you, you've went through life, and what was it about Donna's story in particular that encouraged you or made you want to write about her? How did you decide that out of all the words in your head, those were the ones that you wanted to use?
Well, interestingly enough, it started with genealogy. I had taken a workshop about writing family stories. And it was a 4-week, we met once a week for 4 weeks. And at the end, we were supposed to have this little small book to self-publish. It was kind of almost a KDP workshop, but when it was Create Space, right before KDP took over. And that was kind of what triggered me. I've always been a very avid reader, and I've always thought it was a pipe dream to think about writing a book. And like I said, I didn't have enough words in my head, but it was that workshop that was a catalyst for me to think, well, maybe I can do this. And I think because I was in that family storytelling mode, Donna popped into my head. She was inspired by my own grandmother, who ran the hardware store in the small town where I grew up. So
That's the fact that, you know, you were doing a genealogy workshop. There was such a strong sense of family in this story. So as we dive into kind of the relationships that Donna has with the people around her, can you tell us a little bit about her world in Pine Bluff and how she comes to be the owner of a hardware store?
So Pine Bluff is, again, loosely based on my hometown where I grew up. I haven't lived since I graduated from high school, but where I grew up. And I shouldn't even say loosely based. It's based on it, but it's fictionalized, you know, so that I can have my way with it.
Mm-hmm.
The
So
names have been changed to protect the innocent.
exactly. And like I said, so my own grandmother owned and operated the hardware store with my grandfather, who was a building contractor. So again, just being in that family story mode and thinking about it, okay, I want to try my hand at a cozy mystery. Who's going to be my protagonist? And for some reason, I just thought of my grandmother. And so some of Donna's story is, or her backstory, I should say, is my grandmother's own backstory.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather passed away suddenly. She was left with the hardware store. So a lot of that, the house that Donna lives in, the big brick house that's described in the book, is the house my mother grew up in. It's I've used a whole lot of Easter eggs and family stories in this one. So Donna's world is the world I grew up in.
I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, that is so cool. And kind of one of the things I'd like to kind of go from there is the fact that you have a woman who's running a hardware store, which is, I think, very much not stereotypical at all. Can you talk about, you know, you mentioned that, you know, this is in large part, it sounds like a salute to your grandmother, but could you maybe talk about, you know, the reality of it? It couldn't have been easy for her.
You know, and I wish I knew more. She's been gone for a lot of years. And when I was growing up, that was just normal. And so I didn't ask those questions. And now it's too late. But yeah, I remember always, even my mother describing my grandmother as, you know, she was a strong businesswoman. She knew what she was doing. She's the one that, I mean, my grandfather, when he wasn't out on a job, would help at the hardware store, but it was her that was there. And she's the one, you know, driving the backhoe and loading lumber onto, you know, flatbeds for the customers and doing all of those things. So I wish I knew more up there, but I think, you know, being able to write Donna has kind of been therapeutic for me in a way to think about what it was for grandma.
Yeah.
I think that also, and being in her world and exploring kind of all of the challenges that Donna has to face, I wonder if you wouldn't mind kind of setting the scene for our wonderful viewers who are tuning in this evening. We've got Claudia, DHB, Rotorhead, and Farmhouse Reader chiming in with hellos and good evenings. Hi, everybody. Glad that you're here.
Hello. Yes.
And Rotorhead is saying hardware, more power. So I'm assuming that they're all for being at a hardware store.
Yeah, and owning those power tools for ourselves,
power tools,
right?
Yes. we this past weekend built we went to Target and got one of those a bookshelf and got our power tools out, and we're using it and you know, kind of making me think about how Donna is, you know, she's a small town business owner, and she is combating the struggles of dealing with those big box hardware stores. Like I'm thinking like Home Depot, Lowe's, and then, you know, of course, places like Target and whatnot. So maybe just kind of set the scene for us about where Donna is in life and the struggles that she is currently facing as a business owner, and how those struggles compound when a dead body shows up.
Sure. So Donna's 62. She's, like you had said in the beginning, she's a widow. Her husband's been gone for 3 years. She's struggling with that because she's never been the best homemaker. She's a businesswoman. So she's always, you know, cooked her meals out of a box. And so she's struggling with the fact that he died of a heart attack and wasn't her fault. She's got that emotional baggage going on. Her the town is very small. It's about 1,200 people, but 20 miles away is a bigger town. I mean, not huge either. It's not a city, but a big box store like Home Depot has come in. I haven't named it, but it's a big box home improvement store. And so she's struggling with that. She's already seen her numbers slow down a little bit, not significant where she's going to have to close, but she's worried about it. It's summertime. It's late August when the story opens. So she's worried about the upcoming winter already, and just struggling with that. And then there's a land developer in town buying the historic Emory Theater, going to turn it into a swanky hotel, which a lot of the townspeople think that doesn't make any sense. Who's going to come here for that? But he's already made a lot of enemies. And then suddenly Donna finds him dead in the bathroom of her hardware store.
And
So-
and yeah, that was a little shocking. Not only does she find him, it's a cozy mystery. No spoiler
cozy
alerts.
Right.
But I thought it was really clever, the fact that this is a unique bathroom because of the fact of how the building is laid out. So could you talk a little bit about that? I want to hear, I don't want to talk about it because I want to hear you tell everybody, because I thought
Sure.
I had never seen something like that in a business setting that I can recall. And I thought that is really slick.
Okay. Yes. And it is directly from my grandmother's hardware store. It was
Oh,
exactly
cool.
like this. So it's a big stone building that takes up, I don't know, half of the block. And it's a small town, so the blocks aren't very big. But Donna owns the building. And next door, in the same building, next door is a smaller space, next door to a hardware store, a smaller space where there's a clothing boutique. And they're called Lipstick and Lace. Donna owns the whole building. So the woman that is in that space rents from her, but between the two spaces is a very narrow, short hallway. Doors from the hardware store and the boutique come into the hallway, and the only thing in that hallway is a small bathroom. And that's where the land developer is found dead. So did they come out from the hardware store? Did the killer come in from the boutique? We don't know.
In your previous answer, Paula, you said so many things that I want to kind of pick apart.
Okay.
Because, number one, Donna's guilt over her husband's death was so emotionally crushing to me as the reader. I was just like, I was so there with her pain. And it was like page 2. And I was already like, this poor woman like needs a win in life. Like, I can't imagine going and feeling that way, but also like, why wouldn't you be feeling that way? Like if that's like the lifestyle that you've been having, like you begin to ask like all of these what ifs. And I was just like, that was such a masterful way to pull an emotional connection for your reader. And I was just so invested in Donna, like right off the bat because of
Thank
just
you.
like this.
I really appreciate hearing that. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And it was just like, I wanted her
I didn't
to
mean
win.
to crush you though.
It was like crushing in a good way. Like you want to crush me so that you can build me up. And
Yes.
you do, because one thing that I just found so incredible about Donna and the whole experience that she gives us as the reader is, and as you were kind of sharing your answer, you kept using the word struggle. It's like Donna has a lot of struggles going on, but man, is she like the nicest, most helpful, like really joyful person. And so it was a really nice balance of you just wanted her to have a win, but we keep getting these like foreboding things happening. That's like, oh man, like, is this, this letter that she receives from the bank, is that really a mistake? And all of these things that are happening to her. She's just somebody you want to root for. And in turn, her counterpart or nemesis, I don't know. I was like, I could never imagine talking to my landlady the way that Darlene Lovelace talks to Donna. And so I would love it if you could share, Paula, a little bit about the characters that are outside of Donna's like nuclear family, because we'll dig into the family a little bit later. But tell us about the other characters in town that we meet, because they're a pretty interesting cast.
Okay. And you might have to, if there's anybody else that I don't talk about that you want me to. So Darlene, of course, is, yes, a nemesis. I think every good cozy mystery needs a nemesis for your main character, right? And that's actually in my first draft, my first probably 4 drafts of this book, that was missing. Darlene was there, but she wasn't Donna's nemesis. And I thought, okay,
Oh, wow.
how do you, I have a critique group, and one of our mottos that one of the other members had said was, we have to make our characters suffer. So how do you make your characters suffer? Darlene seemed like a really good way to do that. She was already kind of snarky. I knew that. So she's very snarky. And she shouldn't talk to Donna the way she does, but she does. So Darlene owns Lipstick and Lace next door. She owns a boutique. And she's just, I think I describe her one time as, wearing enough turquoise jewelry to outfit 2 rodeo queens.
Yeah.
She's slick. She's well-dressed. She has an attitude of thinking that she's a little bit better than the rest of the people in Pine Bluff. She's lived there her entire life, but she doesn't know why she landed there. She thinks that she's above and beyond the hayseeds who live there.
I mean, she was like, she was a character that just came off the page, and almost like you kind of like, oh God, like just, she's like, you're very like, that this lady's going to be trouble. But they're at least, Donna isn't surrounded by all terrible people.
No.
I want to talk a little bit about the group of older gentlemen that congregate at her store, because I thought that it was like a really sweet way of kind of introducing us to the community. I believe Bill was one of them. So maybe tell us a little bit about the relationship that Donna has with the greater community around her, and kind of how they are there to support her in the wake of Bob's passing.
Sure. So these 4 guys Donna calls them her coffee clutch guys. And I picture, the hardware store, like an old time hardware store that you think of with like, or even a general mercantile with the old pickle barrel and the guy sitting around over a checkerboard is kind of what I pictured when I started creating the coffee clutch guys. They all were very good friends of Bob's and Donna's. They were family friends. But these guys had been Bob's friends since they were in grade school, since they were little kids. And they're all professionals in town. Ernie owns the garage. It's kind of catty corner across the street, gas station and garage. We've got Bill Wilder, who was Bob's partner, in the construction business, and has taken it over upon Bob's death. We have Rick Montgomery, who's a local surveyor, land surveyor. I said 4. Am I missing somebody? Maybe there's only 3.
I thought there was 3, but
okay, there must just be 3. I'm making it up. So Bob would have been the 4th, right? He's just not there anymore. So they all congregated for years. Every morning they'd come into the hardware store for Donna's ridiculously bad coffee. Before they all broke up for their day, it was just like their little check-in. And with Bob's death, they've just continued to do that. And they check on Donna and they have her back, and they're a great group of guys. I really enjoy writing them.
I think the fact that they're there for that really bad cup of coffee, and it's a theme that kind of carries out. And I just thought it was so funny that every time it's like you just see folks, either putting a ton of sugar or a ton of cream or just trying to get through the cup,
pouring it down the sink.
Well, and one of the things that I really enjoyed as you're introducing us to this, wonderful and unique cast of characters, it reminded me a little bit of Schitt's Creek.
Okay.
And in a good way. And, like even when you mention Ernie, and talking about the fact that he always smelled like he put maybe some axle grease like behind his ears and in his hair. And it's like, oh my God, you you were so masterful in bringing all, like, and to Sarah's point, with the coffee, bringing all of the senses in. So, it's like, not only can I imagine seeing Ernie, but then, it's like, okay, yeah, I know that aroma or stench, depending on who you are. So talk a little bit about that, if you would, bringing those additional sensory experiences to the page.
Well, I don't know. It kind of comes natural, I guess. Like I said, I've always been an avid reader. And I think in order to write all of that, you got to read voraciously. And I think then it just starts to come out naturally. What is it that I want to see and hear and smell on the page? Because those things aren't things. Maybe I just have a very vivid imagination and Ernie standing right in front of me as I write it. Because they're not things that I really have to sit and think about. They just happen. I'm smelling him. I know him. I mean, we all know an Ernie, right? So I'm sorry that I'm not answering that question very well, because it just comes out.
You're just born with it.
Yeah. I tip my hat to you, because that's something for me as a writer. I need to, what I'm going through, that's something I have to be conscious of, that no, I need to add some of those types of things, because.
And for me, I have to dial them back.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So could you talk to us a little bit about your writing process then, kind of while we're on that subject?
Sure. Again, because this is my debut, my writing process with it was all over the place. When I sat down to first write this, again, I was just thinking, okay, I'm going to try my hand in a book, and cozy mysteries were always my go-to. I read every genre, but cozy mysteries were always my go-to for something lighter, something fun, something cozy that felt like a warm hug. So I thought, okay, I'm going to give a shot at that. And boy, I didn't know what I was doing, but I came up, Donna popped into my head, and of course my town. And then I just sat down and wrote by the seat of my pants completely.
Oh, wow.
I thought I knew who the killer was, and the killer completely surprised me. The guy that I thought it was initially isn't on the page at all now in the final version. And because I didn't know what I was doing at all, I had to rewrite this book at least 7 times before it was what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
I changed from third person to first. I ended up, I started querying it, and my query letter was really good because I was getting a lot of requests, but then rejections in the end. So I knew my query letter was all right, but there was something wrong with the manuscript. So I set it aside, took Ellie Alexander's Mystery Masterclass, and wrote something completely different and learned what I was missing in Hammers and Homicide. So all of that to say, now I kind of do have a writing style, and it's more of, I'm not a plotter and I'm not a pantser. I'm like firmly in the middle, where I know who my characters are. I think I know who my victim is. Well, I do know who my victim is. I usually know the murder weapon. I know who my suspects are, and I think I know who the killer is before I sit down to write. And getting there is a meandering road, but yeah, so that's
when you said that you had rewritten it 7 times. In my head, I'm thinking when I say like rewriting a book, it's, for me, it's kind of going back and just kind of going through it again. But like I'm keeping most of the big bones and the structure the same. Mm-hmm. But to change something from third person to first person, I was like, that is a rewrite.
That one was a complete rewrite.
And did you find the experience of like transitioning from third to first person, did you find it to be like you connected more with the words? Yes. Or was it what kind of experience was that?
For me, I connected better with my characters mm-hmm. in first person. In third person, I felt like almost a omnipresent narrator mm-hmm. looking down. And when I changed it into first, I got so much closer to Donna, and which is maybe why she can smell Ernie. It was a whole different experience for me writing in first than in third.
Well, so one of the things about that, though, I'd be curious, is in terms of writing crime fiction or mysteries, you as writing, as moving from third to first, now you're all in Donna's head. And so you don't have that kind of that wider picture, for telling the story, because now you're just focused on, okay, right here. So can you talk about how, while it brought a much more immediate and intimate feel, can you talk about maybe some of the challenges, or did you find any unique challenges going from first to third or from third to first person?
Not really for a cozy, because you're supposed to only be in one head, right? And so that was part of my problem with third person. I was head hopping and I didn't even know it. And my agent, who is no longer with us, is the one who pointed that out. And and I didn't even know it. And so when I went to first person, that head hopping stopped.
Mm-hmm.
For one thing, I think if I was writing, or if anybody is writing a more traditional mystery, because you can be in various points of view, and be more of a third person, I think it might be easier there. But for the one point of view, at least for me, it's much easier in first.
Okay.
I found that when I first started, I guess, like taking my writing seriously and focusing on narrowing that point of view, because even when I was writing in first person, I guess I was head hopping, because I would get comments from my editor being like, how does she know this? And, how does your main character know that they are, scratching their head in confusion, or something along the lines of like, how is she getting this information from other characters? And so it kind of forced me to reevaluate like how I was presenting, their actions, and doing that show versus telling type of story. But then there are times where you could just like put the word obviously or clearly or evidently, and you solve all of your problems in those moments. And so it's really fun to be able to kind of play with your other supporting characters, because you still want to know what they're feeling and what they're experiencing. So props to being able to go through the whole book and just like redo it. That's amazing.
Thanks. It was, I think, and I don't know how you two feel about it, but until a book is published, you never feel like you're done with it. And now it's published, so you have to be done with it. Because if it wasn't, I probably would have rewritten it 3 more times.
I am there with you. Although I would even say, Paula, like, as for me with the books that I independently publish, there are times where it's like, you know what, like I can do my own like updated edition if I wanted to.
That's true. That could be dangerous.
It's very dangerous. And you do have to say like, okay, I'm done. And because you're right, like you always feel there's always one way that you could do something better.
Right.
Well, and I want to tip my hat to you also, because my first book, from first draft to publishing to when it finally came out, took 17 rounds of revisions and editing. So good job of coming in, way fewer than me. So
a little bit under that, but
it's also part because I was very much in the same position that you were in, that I had this idea. I didn't know anything. It was just, I wanted to write this story. And so I did. So, and then after I get that first draft done, that's when I found out, oh, okay, it's not done. And so anyway, I kind of, how was that for you emotionally? Because it can be a challenge. You're proud of yourself because you just wrote a book, but can you talk about that journey a little bit for us?
Yeah. So during that rough first draft, and when I say rough emotionally too, I think it took me like a year, because I had months of imposter syndrome. What do you think you're even doing? Why do you think you can write a book? Obviously you can't do this. And so I wouldn't write for several months at a time. And I had a couple of different sessions like that, like that. So it took me a very long time to write that first draft. And then, like you said, when I finished it, finally, I was, you're proud of yourself. And you see the stats that, 99% of the population wants to write a book, but, 20%, I'm pulling these out of my head, ever really do. And you did. And it's a first draft. And then you realize it's a first draft. It needs so much work. So I think there's a lot of emotional stuff that goes along with that. But at the same time, I've always been very, I'm doing this. I'm not sure what the word is. As a writer, I have no words half the time when I talk. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank of, I guess steady is the word I'm looking for. If I'm going to do something, I'm bound and determined I'm going to do it. And so I've started this. I've got a first draft. I'm going to keep going.
Well, Paula, you just made me feel
because you did it.
Yeah, you did it. And I mean, you've had an amazing release for a debut.
Thank you, yes.
I think not a lot of people. You were featured in Women's World, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is super exciting. Like that's a huge deal. And so
Thank
the fact
you. Blew me away.
That you have, you've been on this journey, you've made it here. I am hoping that you're writing more books, that we're going to get to see more of Donna. I do want to say that because we've been chatting away and learning about all of your process, we are already 30 minutes into the show.
Oh gosh.
So, time flies as it always does when we're having fun. So we want to take a quick moment to let our viewers know, for folks who are joining us live, that we have a very special giveaway this evening. Woo-hoo. With a hardcover copy of Hammers and Homicide.
Nice.
That looks so
Look at
beautiful.
that.
Paula, what is our magic word that folks can type into the Google chat to enter for the drawing?
Tools.
Love it.
Okay.
Very useful.
Yes.
And so folks, make sure you're logged into either your Gmail, Google, YouTube account. Type the word tools into the chat box. And at the end of the show, we will draw a winner and ask you to email me your mailing address so that we can get it to Paula. Paula, when you said the stat of 99% of people want to write a book but don't, I was like, oh man, that made me feel so great about myself. So I'm going to go with that stat.
Yeah.
And,
good one.
Because
doesn't matter that I just made it up.
It's when you sit down, and I'm trying to think about the mindset that I was in back when I wrote my very first book, which is a manuscript that has not seen the light of day and very unlikely that it ever will. I was in college. I thought, this is going to be the next amazing thing. And I wrote it and submitted it to these very reputable publishing houses, and was very quickly like brought to reality of how challenging the publishing landscape was. And so my dreams were crushed at a very, very early age. But
you kept on.
I did. I switched gears, had to go through some challenges, switched gears, and found a genre that I was, I think, much more comfortable being in. And thank goodness that I did find it, because I love killing people off in mysteries.
Right?
It's so therapeutic.
On paper.
Tell us about, you mentioned your query letter and kind of the process. If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about what the journey from that querying part of your publishing experience has been. And JC, I think it would be nice if maybe we could we can commiserate together to let other people know that you wrote the book. It's really hard to write a book, very, very hard. But gosh, to go through the querying process, you need some other type. I don't know what it is, but it's hard.
You need
it's
a really
it's awful.
thick skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a very thick skin. So, I mean, you guys know, So I finished Hammers and Homicide, which was not its title at the time, and in one of those many drafts that wasn't the final, and started querying it. Like I said, my query letter was good. My manuscript was not. I got about 30 rejections. One of those agents had requested an R&R, which is a revise and resubmit. That was Dawn Dowdle. And she was the one who, she gave me great feedback. Dawn was amazing. And she was the one that said, "You're head hopping. There's no way these characters could know that." So then I went back, and I think between that R&R request from Dawn is when I changed to first person before I resubmitted it to her. She rejected it again. It was that second one that I wrote during Ellie Alexander's masterclass that I was taking, that when I submitted it to her, I stopped after 30 rejections. I stopped querying Hammers and Homicide, and I set it aside, took that mystery masterclass, wrote something else, started querying it, and signed with Dawn on that. And then we revisited Hammers and Homicide, and she signed me for that as well. But this is a long process. It was a very long process with lots of rejections that you have to be tough about. I've seen several authors that I know just got a couple of rejections and they're done. They can't do that. So I actually took my first rejection and I printed it out and I put it on my office wall. Because I felt like, okay, I have my first rejection. I'm really doing this. That means I'm really doing this.
Yep.
For me, it was, but yeah, it's a long, hard process and you just got to stick to it.
And the fact that those rejections have now resulted in a book that is out in the world. It's a beautiful, Crooked Lane Publishing is a fabulous cozy mystery publisher. Your Women's World feature, like that, it just goes to show that like a rejection isn't the end. And JC, I don't know if you have like any battle scars from your querying days that you want to share, so that we all feel so alone.
Paula, like you, with my first manuscript, that's back when I was writing contemporary romance. I submitted it I got 34 rejections before I had a small press say yes. And one of the things I was very fortunate about during that time, because it was hard, it was extremely hard and discouraging, was that I was a member of Romance Writers of America in a local chapter. And so I had folks, here in central Indiana who were also writing romance, but were with me along that journey. And so I wasn't, as frustrating as it was and as discouraging as it could be, there were folks I had literally nearby who had read my work and who had said, "No, keep going, don't give up." And that's, I think, one of the things. And then it took me, from when I first started writing, it took me until 2015 until, I got an agent. And that's one of the things I also want to mention. Even after you get an agent, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a book deal right off the bat. I've been through, I don't know how many rejections I've got since I've been agented. And that's one of the things that I guess that I like to mention is that it's so important to the best that you can, especially as someone who is new to this gig, is to find some people who are doing this with you and who can support you, who aren't necessarily just yes people, because that's not going to do you any good, but people who get it. Can you talk about, did you have folks like that, Paula?
Not in the beginning. I do now.
Okay, good.
I created, with some other authors, we've created just a very small critique group that we meet once a month. We send pages. And when we meet once a month, it started out that we were supposed to be talking about those pages, that we all, send them back. And we don't ever talk about those pages. We talk about every single other thing with our lives and with publishing and writing. And it's amazing. And you need people that are in your corner. And like you said, not just yes men that are going to say when they're reading your pages, your character wouldn't say that. What is this? You know, they have to be able to tell it to you straight.
Yeah.
That community,
nicely, of course,
yeah.
without tearing you down.
That the community aspect is so important. And I think about, you guys just said that you got like 30 rejections before you found an agent that was willing to take a chance. And I'm like, man, I'm going to put you guys to shame. I had 72 rejections that I kept a spreadsheet of. And the day I deleted that spreadsheet was the day that my first traditionally published book came out, because it was like, you know what? I don't need to think about these people anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's such a weird process that we put ourselves through. And these characters, we're so emotionally attached to them that, they are real people in our lives. They're people that we talk to. And I'd like to circle back on the family, the importance of family that Donna has, because her family is a huge support system. And I'm, really thinking about April and how she has come back to town to kind of watch over her mother. I won't call her a nutcase, even though Donna calls herself a nutcase a lot. But tell us a little bit about how the Carpenter family works and operates together.
Okay. So Donna's sidekick, again, cozy mystery, you have to have a sidekick. And Donna's sidekick is her adult daughter, April. April's 32. Excuse me if I get that wrong. She might be 34, but she's in her early 30s. And she has recently moved back to town. She was in San Francisco for a handful of years, really since she left home. And says she's come home because she's tired of city life and she wants small town living. And it is like immediate clear that, she comes back home and she's immediately sinking her roots back into her small town, and she's thriving. She's taken over her mom's design business. Donna had a small side design business along with the hardware store when Bob was alive, restoring furniture and helping just, re-wallpaper people's houses, things like that. Nothing big. April has taken that business over and she's taking it to the next level. But her and Donna have a really great relationship where they respect each other. They love each other. They're not afraid to tease each other and be snarky with each other at the same time. I think it's a really real relationship. Because I have two grown daughters of my own, and we get along very much like Donna and April do. Donna has two other adult kids who are not in the book. They're mentioned, but they don't live there. And it kind of comes out that they've kind of sent April back home to keep an eye on Donna, because she's mentioned that maybe she's talking to Bob and there's some weird things going on that they kind of want to make sure that she's not losing her mind.
They're good kids. Now, is there a possibility that we will see them all come together at some point?
Yes, possibly.
That's exciting. Well,
in a feature book. Yeah.
I wanted
they'd all have to come home for Christmas, right?
That's
well, hopefully a dead body won't show up at Christmas.
Yeah.
Time.
Oh, it probably will.
It probably will. So is that a hint? Do we have?
Well, that one it's not written. Book 2 is written.
Okay.
And it is in the hands of my editor, though Crooked Lane only contracts for one at a time. They wait to see how it's doing. And even it's been a great book launch, I think, but I have nothing to compare it to. And as you guys know, the publishers are very tight-lipped about what is actually happening. And so I have no idea. And I don't have a contract for book 2 yet, but we're hoping.
Well, fingers crossed. And
yes.
And the relationship that you have created with Donna and April, I thought was something really special. And I believe that one of our viewers, Kirsten, is agreeing, because they've written that it's such a great book.
Well, thank you.
And so the reason why I thought it was really special is I love the mother-daughter dynamic. We in the cozy mystery genre, there is a wide range of ages that the genre features. We sometimes get widows. But sometimes to me, it's just like they're much younger widows. And so it's like to have Donna be this established matriarch of her family, her kids are all grown. They're in their 30s. And it was just like, it was a really cool dynamic to see where, you know, Donna is just so full of life. And I think that it's such a lovely tribute to folks that, you know, it was just, it made me root for her so much. And to have that, you know, to have her, you know, picking up the pieces after her husband's death, but continuing to appreciate what she has.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. She's a
fighter.
I wanted to write a strong, capable character in Donna.
Well,
hopefully that comes across that way.
I certainly, yes, yes. You took the hammer and nailed it on the head. Donna is, I mean, it's such a delightful, cozy mystery. And I'm so happy that to see all the love and support that you've been getting out in the bookish community. And I'm so glad that, you know, you were able to join us here to celebrate. And I'm hoping that you might tell us, for folks that want to stay connected, or want to see you in person or at other online events, what you have coming up in your calendar and where folks can connect with you online.
Sure. So coming up in my calendar, this is kind of the tail end of my launch stuff for Hammers and Homicide. It's been out for 6 weeks now. There'll be more stuff coming up, but as far as, you know, I've done the book signings and stuff locally for them. But the next thing that I'm going to be at is Left Coast Crime in April, which is in Bellevue. And then I'll also be at Malice Domestic.
Oh, yay.
In April. So April's going to be very busy, back to back. But yeah, I've, you know, of both of those have panel assignments already, and have been assigned to the new author breakfast at Left Coast Crime. So
awesome.
That'll be fun. Yeah.
Nice.
And then as far as online, my website, paulacharles.com, simple and easy. You can sign up for my newsletter there, which is, I was just talking to Sarah and JC about this before we went live. I had a very, very good reminder this past week of why we build newsletter lists, and keep that, because my personal Facebook account was hacked after multiple tries that I was able to block. Facebook deemed one coming from South America was the one to let in. So that happened while I was sleeping Friday night. And as soon as the hackers got in, they changed all my, you know, two-factor thing. They changed email, they changed the phone number. There was no way for me to get in. But on top of that, before I even woke up, they had my account shut down permanently, because I don't know what they did. Probably, you know, something that went against company standards, shut my accounts down. Well, my personal account, my author page, Facebook author page that I had is just hanging out there as an orphan. I have zero access to it. But because I also had my Instagram author page linked, that was shut down as well. So online now, and like I said, thankful for a newsletter list that I could shoot out a quick newsletter to my followers that way, to say, instead of wallowing in it and licking my wounds for too long, this is how we market these days. So I created a new account. Facebook now, you can find me at Rainy Day Mysteries, and in the bio is where it says Paula Charles / Janna Rollins, because I have 2 pen names. Same on Instagram. I'm rainy_day_mysteries, because there was a couple. So there I am.
That story, it breaks my heart for you. But one thing that maybe is a silver lining, or that you can take away from it, is that you were a big deal enough for somebody to go, like, for somebody to do that to you. And so that, maybe pat yourself on the back for that, because
I guess, I don't know. I still can't figure out what the end game would be to get an account shut down. I don't know.
But folks, make sure that you follow Paula on Rainy Day Mysteries. I think it's easy to, if you start from Facebook and then it'll show you the Instagram information. Because you do have a really nice community and a really nice page of stuff that you're putting up there. So I'm glad that like you're back online and that folks can continue to connect and interact and all of that good stuff.
Well, and that's, like you say, the community, the cozy mystery, and maybe all of mystery writing community, but we're in the cozy world, is so welcoming and supportive. It's amazing. It's one thing. It's such a huge bonus that I didn't expect. I never thought about, but it's just so amazing.
We are all lucky to have you as part of it, Paula.
Yes, we're glad that you're here, that you have joined the ranks. And yeah, you're right. It's a wonderful community. It's an uplifting community. You wouldn't think that, given the fact that like we spend all of our time killing people off on the page, that we would be such a nice like group of people. But
I guess that's where we get our aggressions out, right?
I guess, yes. So I'm glad that you've had that experience too, because you sometimes see folks that haven't, or that they haven't found the community that they're looking for. And it's always really hard to see that there are people struggling. So I'm glad that you found a space that you can thrive in.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Well, ladies, I apologize. We've only got about 10 minutes left. So before we get too far, I want to remind folks that Paula has been kind enough to offer a hardback copy of Hammers and Homicide to a lucky winner who has typed in the magic word into the chat. So before we run out of time, Paula, do you want to remind folks what the magic word is?
Tools.
Yes. So if you haven't typed that in yet, please do so. Got about 10 minutes to go. And while we let you do that, it is time to kind of wrap up a little bit to talk about what we're watching, what we're reading, what we're listening to. So Sarah, what's up on your consuming list?
Well, since this is our nice like bonus episode that we had this month, since we have this special day, we are still working our way through Star Trek: The Next Generation. We're almost at the end of season 1. And I think we're actually on the last episode of season 1. So I'm excited to see it progress. We are, though, we're going to rewatch Dune tonight and tomorrow, because I can't watch a 3-hour movie anymore in one sitting. And then we're going to go see part 2 this weekend, which I'm excited for because I haven't been to a movie theater since the Barbie movie. And so that's my visual consumption. Listening wise, I have been taking a little break from podcasts. I have been listening to, last week I was on Swamp Suites of the Misfortune series by Janna Leon. I'm actually got through 2 more books at this point. I'm on so I think it's like Swamp Haunt, and it's got like a castle haunted mystery, which I'm really enjoying. I love haunted castles. So the fact that there's one in like the Louisiana Bayou, absolutely, I'm totally there for. And then for physical reading, over the weekend, I read this really beautiful manga series. I'm here with my manga recommendation. It was called I Hear the Sunspot. And oh gosh, it was so beautiful. It was about a young man who he is hearing impaired, not to a degree where he can't hear any noise, but he has a really, really hard time distinguishing sounds. But he meets another young man whose voice he can really hear clearly, and their relationship and how that how they like grow and come together. It was just so beautiful and so moving. And that's what I love about the manga genre. Like there are just so many of these amazing gems that I found. So again, it's called I Hear the Sunspot. And I believe it's a like 3-volume series, and it was very, very satisfying.
Nice. How about you, Paula?
Start with watching. So we are very big BBC watchers in this house, and just discovered last night the first episode of season 13 of Vera came out. So
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. We greedily watched that already last night while I wait for more. On PBS, I love Finding Your Roots.
Mm-hmm.
So again, waiting for the next episode of that, which I think is the last episode that doesn't come out to April 2nd, but love, love, love. We just finished up season 1 of Will Trent, but you can see there's a lot of murder mysteries that are happening in front of our eyeballs as well. As far as listening, I tend to listen to podcasts when I'm either driving or baking. And my go-tos recently have been either My Favorite Murder, which is wonderful. And I love the mini-sodes, they call them. And then I recently discovered Ghosted with Roz Hernandez, which is hysterical and funny. And she actually has, I think it's on Netflix or Hulu. They have a show called Living for the Dead. I believe that's, they go around. There's a ghost hunter and a tarot card reader, and there's several of them, and they go around the country. And I swallowed up that series really quickly, and I'm waiting for more. And then physically reading. Oh yeah, did you watch it?
I haven't, but I absolutely love paranormal stuff that is real.
So much fun. So much fun. Reading wise, I am trying to get some of the Agatha nominees and Lefty nominees under my belt, so I can vote with any sense of knowing what I'm doing. So right now, I am probably 3/4 of the way through Mother-Daughter Murder Night by Nina Simon, which is really great. And I'm also reading The Life and Death, I think it's called, of Edgar Allan Poe, which is a nonfiction, and it's good. And I believe it's an Agatha nominee.
Nice. An informed voter. Very, very good, Paula. Good for you.
Well, last year I was like, oh no.
It's like, I know one person. JC, what are you up to?
So as far as what I'm watching, I want to, my wife, Nancy, is a huge fan of the Oscars. So this time of year, she is knee deep in watching all the Oscar nominees, as far as Best Picture, Director, as far down the list as she can go. And so I watched with her American Fiction. And this is the film based on a book that came out in 2020, I believe, a Black author who is a college professor. He has just written his most recent book. It is rejected by his publisher, and he's very frustrated. And he gets this idea of just to get something off his chest. He writes a Black novel that is very, very stereotypical of what they refer to as the Black experience. It becomes this huge hit, snowballs into maybe even a movie and all this kind of stuff. And as a writer and as a book lover, the film is phenomenal. It has a lot to say. It makes fun of white people in every way that is just so true. And if you get a chance, see it, because it's a wonderful film. Jeffrey Wright is the lead, and he's nominated for Best Actor. The film is nominated for Best Picture. And as both of you are writers, authors, what it's like going through the ups and downs. And I think you will really love this film. It's funny, it's poignant. So check it out. So that's what I saw recently. We saw it. I forget what we saw. It's available streaming. So do yourself a favor. It's like 2 hours. And so it's not a terrible, super long thing. The other thing that I recently have read, I took a trip back in time to read some urban fantasy, which I hadn't for a while. A book called The Fairies of Sadieville, which is book 6 in the Tufa series by Wisconsin author Alex Bledsoe. This is a series of a small community of people who may be more than just people, who live this very isolated lifestyle in rural Tennessee. But these people, the Tufa community, are much more than they appear to be. And so if you're a fan of urban fantasy, there are 6 books in the series, and they are just fabulous. So that's what I want to say. And I do also want to say I'm heartbroken because I found out just today that season 5 of Miss Scarlet and the Duke will be arriving, but the Duke is not coming back. So
oh no.
Yes, yes. Stuart
Jeez.
Martin
So it's just
announced
Miss
today.
Scarlet.
Yeah, so it's going to be Miss Scarlet, and it's like, I love Kate Phillips, I love Miss Scarlet, and Eliza's wonderful, but I really wanted Eliza and William to have a happily ever after. So yeah, sorry to end things on a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, at least, I mean, that was a lot of great recommendations, I think, that we just put out there. And JC, we're gonna have to do like a post Oscars like debrief during our next Bookish Hour so that we can get opinions and whatnot.
Yeah.
And because our Bookish Hour is limited to an hour, our time with Paula has drawn to a close. Paula, it has been absolutely wonderful chatting with you this evening. It's been so fun getting to talk about Donna and the world of Pine Bluff, and just really happy for you. And, welcome to the Cozy Mystery community. We're thrilled that you're here. And we hope that you'll come back and chat with us once there are more Donna stories out in the world.
Yes, of course. I would love to.
But before we do sign off, we do have to announce the winner of your very generous giveaway. Folks, you know the drill. We've got our drum roll. We've got our random number generator popping up. Our winner this evening is Farmhouse Reader. Congratulations.
All right. Yay.
We will, Farmhouse Reader, if you can email me at giveaways@thebookishhour.com, your mailing address, I will get that information on over to Paula. Folks, head to Paula's website, sign up for her newsletter, sign up for her new socials so that you can stay connected with her and hear all about the great things that she is doing out in the cozy mystery world. And Paula, again, thank you so much for being bookish with us.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. I very much enjoyed visiting with you guys.
Well, I hope you will be back soon. And for our folks who joined us live, as always, it is a pleasure to spend an evening with you. Wishing you a very happy weekend coming up with the month of March right around the corner. And until we see you for our next episode, stay bookish, everybody. Have a great night.